Here is a garment that has clothed fighter pilots, outlaws, punk rockers, and action heroes. And each time the world tried to contain it, it only got more dangerous. For most of human history, clothing protected you from weather. It was not supposed to say anything about who you were or what you stood against. Then came the First World War, and with it, the airplane. Early military pilots sat in open cockpits 10,000 feet up, exposed to winds cold enough to kill. At altitude, temperatures could drop far below freezing. A cotton uniform offered almost nothing. Pilots were losing fingers to frostbite before they ever saw an enemy. The solution was leather. Thick, wind-resistant, naturally insulating. Military quartermasters began issuing leather coats to aviators as early as 1917. These early jackets were long, almost coat-length, buttoned high. They were purely functional, no symbolism intended, no style in mind, just survival gear for men in the sky. The United States Army Air Service formalized the design in 1927 with the A-1 jacket, a waist-length leather shell with a knit wool collar and cuffs. 4 years later, in 1931, came the A-2, arguably the most influential piece of military clothing ever made. Snap front, fitted cut, embossed eagle on the butt. When the Second World War arrived, the A-2 went with it. American bomber crews flew missions over Germany in these jackets, painting nose art directly onto the leather. Crews decorated their jackets with unit insignia, pin-up girls, cartoon characters. The jacket became a personal statement, the first sign that this garment wanted to be more than equipment. When the war ended in 1945, surplus leather jackets flooded the civilian market. Veterans kept theirs, others bought them cheap. The jacket left the military and entered ordinary life. But the most important leather jacket in history wasn't military. It was made by Irving Scott, a New York garment manufacturer who had been making raincoats since 1913. In 1928, Scott designed a motorcycle jacket for Harley-Davidson dealers to sell. He named it the Perfecto after his favorite cigar. It cost $5.50. The Perfecto was asymmetrical. The zipper ran diagonally across the chest. It had a wide lapel and a belted waist. Designed to protect a rider in a crash, not to look good, it looked extraordinary anyway. Through the 1930s and 40s, the American motorcycle subculture grew. Veterans who came home restless found community in riding clubs. The Perfecto became their uniform. In July of 1947, a motorcycle rally in Hollister, California turned rowdy. Newspapers ran photographs of bikers in leather jackets. America got nervous. 6 years later, Hollywood turned the Hollister story into a film. The Wild One, released in 1953, starred a 29-year-old Marlon Brando. Brando's character wore a Perfecto through the entire film. When a girl asked what he was rebelling against, he said, "What ya got?" The jacket absorbed that line. That single image, Brando astride his Triumph Thunderbird, leather jacket open, cap tilted, became one of the most reproduced photographs of the 20th century. The jacket was no longer clothing. It was attitude. The reaction was immediate. Schools across the United States banned leather jackets. Some towns tried to prohibit them in public spaces. The message was clear: this garment meant trouble. It was exactly the wrong move. Every prohibition made the jacket more desirable to the next teenager who wanted to signal that they were not part of the system. Then in 1955, James Dean appeared in Rebel Without a Cause. He wore a red windbreaker, not leather, but off-screen. Dean lived in a black Perfecto. The association deepened. The image crossed the Atlantic. In Britain, a youth tribe called the Rockers, the Ton-Up Boys, built their identity around motorcycles, rock and roll, and the leather jacket. They gathered at roadside cafes, raced between them on stripped-down motorcycles, and wore heavily customized leather jackets covered in patches and paint. The blank canvas idea had arrived. In 1976, something new exploded in London and New York simultaneously. Punk rock was faster, angrier, and deliberately ugly. It needed a uniform. It already knew where to look. The Ramones walked onto stages in ripped jeans and black leather jackets from 1974 onward. Their look was so unified it seemed like a costume. It was just what they wore. In London, the Sex Pistols and their circle weaponized the jacket. They added safety pins, razor blades, hand-painted slogans. The jacket became a manifesto you could wear. Punk turned the leather jacket into a canvas. Studs, spikes, painted band names, anarchist symbols. Every jacket was unique. Every jacket was a declaration. Through the 1980s, heavy metal adopted the jacket wholesale. Bands like Judas Priest and Motorhead wore them on stage and on album covers. A new generation inherited the uniform through a different music. Then Hollywood rewired the jacket's meaning. In 1984, the Terminator put a black leather jacket on an unstoppable machine from the future. Suddenly, the jacket didn't just mean rebellion, it meant power. Ridley Scott's 1982 film, Blade Runner, had already placed leather jackets throughout its rain-soaked dystopian Los Angeles. Cyberpunk as a genre was crystallizing, and the jacket was its visual anchor. By 1999, The Matrix made it explicit. Neo and Trinity moved through a digital underworld in long leather coats. The jacket had become the uniform of those who knew the truth the system hid. Somewhere along the way, luxury fashion noticed. Designers were producing leather jackets that cost more than a used car. The rebel uniform had gone upmarket. There is a strange irony here. A garment that became iconic because it was cheap and accessible now sits behind glass in boutiques with four-figure price tags. A quality leather jacket begins with a full hide, typically cowhide, though horsehide was preferred historically for its tighter grain and greater abrasion resistance. The hide is tanned, vegetable tanned over months or chrome tanned in days, then stretched, dyed, cut by pattern and sewn, often by hand at the collar and cuffs. A new leather jacket is stiff, almost architectural. It takes months of wear to soften. The jacket molds to its owner and becomes theirs specifically. This is why vintage leather jackets command serious prices. An original 1940s A2 in good condition can fetch thousands at auction. The jacket literally carries a life. What is remarkable is how consistently each subculture reached for the same garment. Pilots, bikers, rockers, punks, metalheads, cyberpunks, none copying each other consciously. They all arrived at the same answer. The reason may be structural. A leather jacket is visually heavy, physically protective, and expensive enough to be a commitment. It signals that you have chosen a side. You cannot wander into one accidentally. Every time a new group adopted it, the jacket absorbed their rebellion and held it. The next group inherited a garment already loaded with the memory of every previous outsider who wore it. You can buy a leather jacket in any mall today, reproduced in vinyl, faux leather in 100 cuts. And yet it still carries a faint electrical charge. It still means something. The through line across 100 years. The leather jacket is the garment you put on when you want the world to know you are not going to be easy about it. From an open cockpit over the trenches of France to a teenager's bedroom wall, this garment traveled without losing a single volt of its charge. Objects can carry history inside them. The leather jacket carries a century of people who decided, one way or another, that they were not going to fit in quietly. This is Origins. Subscribe and come back tomorrow. There's a new origin every single morning.